What's going on, everybody? So, I was actually looking at some of the comments on my channel and I came across one question actually from Michelle Davis. And she's basically asking, is it legal for the prosecution to keep the names of the alleged victims from R. Kelly? And if not, what is it that R. Kelly's lawyers can do to get the information? And three, once they have this information, or if once they don't have the information, or if they don't get the information, how do I see R. Kelly faring in this whole situation? Let me just answer the first question. Is it legal for the prosecutors to keep the names of the alleged victims from R. Kelly? Yes and no, right? So we have before us the criminal procedure in Illinois, and it's basically 725 ILCS 190, and it's called the Privacy of Child Victims of Criminal Sexual Offense Act, right? So for the most part, they are wanting to protect the children in this case, or the alleged victims who were children in this case. And even though they may be adults now, the name could technically be released, but let's just have a look at the statute. Now, I'm not going to read the entire statute. I'm just going to read the parts that will, get us straight to the point. And basically, it reads kind of funny because I cut it up, but basically it says, shall be restricted to exclude the identity of any child who is a victim of sexual criminal offense or alleged criminal sexual offense. A court may, for the child's protection and good cause shown, prohibit any person or agency present in court from further disclosing the child's identity. And then it goes on to talk about protecting the child's identity in a school situation. If a child is abused while they are at school, the superintendent has a responsibility to basically protect the child's identity. And it goes on to read, the superintendent shall be restricted from specifically revealing the name of the victim without the written consent of the victim or the victim's parent or guardian. And then it goes on, a court may prohibit such disclosure only after giving notice and hearing to all affected parties. In determining whether to prohibit disclosure of the minor's identity, the court shall consider A, the best interest of the child, and B, whether such non-disclosure would further a compelling state interest. So for the most part, you can see that there are laws to basically protect children, and they don't want to give the children's names out because obviously if they do that, the children could be subjected to additional abuse, not in R. Kelly's situation, but just in general. If a child is a victim of sexual assault or sexual abuse and you release that child's name, they could be subjected to teasing, harassing, and people running up asking questions, did he do it, or where did he do it, so on and so forth. And you really want to protect children from this type of thing. So that's why they had this statute, and that's why the names aren't revealed in the R. Kelly case. Right now, interestingly enough, I think the people in the R. Kelly case are probably adults by now, and releasing their names now really wouldn't cause any damage. So I think in a way they named them Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3 in a way to keep the information from getting out to the public. Not so much because they wanted to protect children because these are adults now, but more so because they want to limit the amount of information the general public has. Because as you know, we will start blogging on this information. We'll start discussing it in public. And besides protecting children, I think there's a general effort to protect victims of sexual crimes in general, right? So there's a right to privacy in most situations, especially if you're a victim. So whether they're children or not, perhaps they still have the right to have their identity protected, right? So interestingly enough, Jane Doe, the use of Jane Doe, John Doe, and Roe Doe, if you will, comes from English law, and then basically is a term or a placeholder when they didn't know the person's identity. I think it originally started in eviction cases whereby squatters had come onto the property and the landlord wanted to get rid of them and he had to go to court. You just can't throw people off your property. He had to go to court to get rid of them. But when he went to court, he found it that he didn't know the names of the actual individuals. So they just started using Jane Doe, John Doe, so on and so forth. So now in this day and time, the name Jane Doe, John Doe could be used for one of several reasons. It could be that they don't know the name of the person, or it could be that they're just trying to protect their identity. So to answer the second question, is there anything R. Kelly's lawyers can do to get this information? I think there's not much that R. Kelly's lawyers have to do. I think the information has to be given over by law, right? Otherwise, R. Kelly couldn't have a fair trial if he didn't know the names and the identities of the people he's alleged of abusing. Now, with this said, I do think that there could be a chance where the government prosecutors are holding on to this information as long as possible so that they can either frustrate the R. Kelly team or so that they can limit the amount of time they have to basically respond to the allegations. But ultimately, they have to give up the identities of the alleged victims. Now, I do know that there are several videos floating around out there. I think I even have some of them on my channel where R. Kelly's lawyers are trying to get copies of the tape that allegedly has R. Kelly sleeping with underage girl that the prosecutor has, and he goes on trying to get this tape for like months before they actually, hand it over in the form of a CD disc. And to me, it just seemed like they held on to it for the longest possible time to try to aggravate R. Kelly and his legal team. I think that could be possibly something that could play out in the case of the names, but ultimately they do have to give them up. Now, to answer the third question, how do I think R. Kelly will fare, or what do I think his chances are? Questions of that nature. Well, I've actually done a couple of videos on the legal analysis of the R. Kelly trial. I'm sorry, not the R. Kelly trial, but the R. Kelly indictment. You should go and check those out. I did one for the state. I did one for the federal prosecutors, and then I even looked at a Heather Williams civil case against R. Kelly. So, I mean, you definitely want to check those videos out. I mean, I don't want to really come out and say what I believe is going to happen, but I will say this. R. Kelly has to get through several different cases in several different jurisdictions. If he beats his state case in Chicago, then he has to beat the federal case in Chicago. I think the federal case is actually coming first. So if he beats the federal case, he then has to turn around and beat the state case. And if he beats both of those, he still has to go to New York to beat that case as well. And if he beats that, he still has to go to Minnesota, albeit a lesser case in the grand scheme of things, but he still has to go to Minnesota to beat it. Then, even if he beats all of the criminal cases, he still has to beat several civil cases. I think Faith Rogers is one of the people that have a civil case against him. Heather Williams has a civil case against him. And these civil cases keep popping up. So he's in for the fight of his life. If he beats one criminal case, they hit him with another. And to make matters worse, they've recently come out with bribery charges as it relates to Aaliyah's wedding. They do have a witness in that case. That witness is going to be his former tour manager, I believe. And basically, there's several videos of him out there on YouTube, basically admitting to getting fake ID for Aaliyah so that she can actually marry R. Kelly, or allegedly admitting, I'm sorry, of getting fake ID so that R. Kelly and her can actually marry. So that's yet another uh, case that has to be beat. In my personal opinion, it just looks like the more cases he beat, the more they will pile on. If he's able to beat all these cases, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out of the woodworks with 2 or 3 more cases. So I don't know. That's it. Leave your questions, comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you think R. Kelly has a chance of actually beating these cases? Leave your questions and comments below and let me know.